Welcome in, everyone. This deep dive is a wild one. It really highlights just how fast things can get twisted online. We've got articles, social media posts, all about this encounter in a convenience store that blew up online. It involves a construction worker named Jason, a store clerk, Dylan, and even gets Elon Musk involved.
Yeah, this story has it all, doesn't it? It touches on a lot of what we've been discussing lately, too, like how quickly people jump to conclusions online and how much influence powerful people have.
Exactly. And I'm really curious to get your take on the whole thing, especially from your perspective on social dynamics.
Yeah.
One of the things that really struck me was how a simple trip for a soda after work could turn into this huge public spectacle.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it all starts with Jason, our construction worker. He's coming off a long day wearing a Maggie hat, just wants to grab a drink.
Right.
Oh.
He walks into the store and there's Dylan the clerk. And things get tense right away. Like Dylan sees that hat and refuses to serve. Jason
Oh!
even makes some sarcastic comments about, racists ruining the country.
Ah, yeah, the mag hat. We talked about wanting to explore the power of symbols, and this is a perfect example. For a lot of people, that hat is more than just a fashion choice. It represents a whole set of political beliefs and triggers really strong reactions, sometimes even before any words are even exchanged.
It's almost like everyone in the store instantly took sides. Like they saw that hat and made up their minds about Jason before he even said a word.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse. Dylan starts, publicly mocking Jason, calling him Mr. MAGA, and basically trying to rile up the other customers.
It's like a textbook example of how quickly a situation can escalate. It makes you wonder about that bystander effect, doesn't it? Like how the presence of others can either embolden someone like Dylan or make people less likely to step in.
Totally. It's like everyone's thinking someone else will say something, so no one does. And to poor Jason, he's just trying to buy a soda.
Yeah.
But before things can go any further, there's a
This
twist.
twist.
Yeah, big one. A Tesla pulls up outside.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And guess who steps out?
Let me guess. It's Elon Musk.
Yep, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Right into this whole chaotic scene.
Whoa, talk about adding fuel to the fire. This is where things get really interesting from a social dynamics perspective. You've got Elon Musk, one of the most recognizable people in the world, suddenly witnessing this very charged encounter.
And he sees it all. Jason being humiliated, him walking out of the store defeated, and then this elderly woman trying to comfort him. It's something you'd see on the news.
It's like a microcosm of our society, isn't it? All
Yeah.
these different perspectives and power dynamics colliding in this one little convenience store.
But hold on, because it gets even crazier. Inside the store, things escalate even further. That elderly woman, she actually confronts Dylan, calls him out for his behavior right there in front of everyone.
Wow, that takes guts. It makes you think about how even in seemingly powerless situations, one person can make a difference.
For sure. But there's another layer to this whole thing. A customer snaps a photo of Jason and the woman outside the store. The one where he looks totally defeated.
Yeah.
And they post it online with this snarky caption. Of course, it goes viral on Twitter.
And there it is, the online narrative machine in full swing. A single photo completely devoid of context becomes this instant trigger for outrage. People are jumping to conclusions fueled by their own preconceived notions and biases without even knowing the full story.
The comments, don't even get me started. It's brutal. People are calling Jason all sorts of names, saying he deserves to be treated that way just because of his hat. It's like they completely dehumanize him based on this one image.
It's a perfect example of how online shaming can happen so quickly. The anonymity, the lack of accountability, it all contributes to this mob mentality where people feel emboldened to say things they'd never say to someone's face.
It's scary. And while all of this is happening online, Jason is driving home completely oblivious. He has no idea his face is plastered all over the internet and that his life is about to change forever.
This is where the real-world consequences of online actions become so apparent. It's not just words on a screen anymore. It's impacting real people's lives in a very tangible way.
Absolutely. And you know what's crazy? Back at the store, Elon Musk is watching the whole thing unfold on his phone. He sees that photo. He reads the hateful comments. And let me tell you, he is not happy.
Oh, this is getting good. I can't wait to hear what happens next.
Yeah?
Elon Musk stepping into a viral social media storm. This is going to be fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
He decides he's not just going to sit there and watch this happen. So he does something totally unexpected. He walks back into that store, goes right up to Dylan, who still has no idea who he is, and says, well, you'll have to wait for part 2 to find out.
All right, we're back, and things are about to get really intense. Remember where we left off? Elon Musk is back in the convenience store, about to confront Dylan about the whole Jason situation.
Oh, yeah. It's about to go down. But while that's happening, imagine Jason. He's driving home. totally oblivious. He's got no clue that his face is all over social media. He's probably more worried about his wife, Sarah, and the kids. They're old enough to have seen it all online. It's just heartbreaking to think about what they must be going through, seeing their dad at the center of this whole mess.
You mentioned wanting to dive into the lasting impact of these online pile-ons. Well, this is where it gets really real. Those online attacks. They can have a devastating impact on mental health relationships, even job security. It's like a digital scarlet letter, almost impossible to erase.
And as if things weren't bad enough for Jason, he gets home and can't resist checking Twitter. The comments are just relentless, people calling him names, making fun of him, saying he deserves to be treated that way just because of his hat.
It's a prime example of how quickly things can spiral online. People often forget there's a real person on the other side of the screen, with feelings and a life outside of that one photo or video.
Exactly. And it's not just Jason. His kids are getting dragged into it, too. They're getting nasty messages from classmates, people making fun of their dad. It's just awful.
It really shows the ripple effects of these online incidents. They can reach far beyond the initial target, and it underscores the need for more empathy and understanding in our online interactions.
Meanwhile, back at the store, Elon Musk is witnessing the whole thing play out online.
Yeah.
He went in thinking he could de-escalate the situation, but now it's blown up way bigger than he anticipated.
Yeah, it's like trying to put out a wildfire with a garden hose. The internet can be a powerful force, and it's not always easy to control the narrative once it takes hold.
Right. So what does Elon Musk do? He gets on the phone with his PR team and says, we need to take control of this. This isn't just about a hat, it's about basic human decency. But while he's doing that, things are getting even worse for Dylan back at the store.
The crowd outside is growing, people are yelling, someone even throws a rock through the window. It's almost like the online anger and hostility have spilled over into the real world.
And Dylan's trapped inside. He's terrified. He finally realizes how bad he messed up. He turns to Jason, who's still just standing there watching it all, and says, I didn't mean for it to go this far.
It's hard to tell if it's genuine remorse or just fear of the consequences, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough call. But Elon Musk, he's got a plan. He's not the type to just sit back and watch things burn. He turns to Jason and says, we need to fix this together.
It's an interesting approach. He could have easily just used his platform to shame Dylan, but instead he's trying to find a way to bring everyone together to find some common ground. It's a risky move, but it could be really powerful if it works.
And he knows the media is all over this story.
Yeah.
Jason's face is on every news channel, so he turns to Jason and says, we need to set the record straight. We need to tell your story. He wants to hold a press conference. Right there outside the store.
Wow, a press conference. That's a bold move. It puts Jason and Dylan in the spotlight, but it also gives them a chance to control the narrative, to tell their side of the story on their own terms.
Exactly. And Jason, he's terrified. He's never spoken publicly before, but he knows Elon's right. He takes a deep breath and says, okay, I'll do it. So the next day, the press conference takes place.
I can only imagine the scene, the media frenzy, the cameras, the whole world watching. It must have been incredibly intense.
The stakes are high. This press conference could either make things worse or offer a path to healing. It all comes down to how they handle it, how genuine they are, and whether people are willing to listen.
All right, so we're back. Remember that press conference? The one Elon Musk set up to try and fix this whole mess? That was a turning point for sure.
Yeah, it was. The whole world was watching to see what would happen. Would it just make things worse, or could it actually offer a path to healing? It was a really tense moment.
It really was. And it all started with Elon Musk. He took control of the narrative right from the start. He acknowledged what had happened, condemned the bullying, and made it clear that this was about accountability and reconciliation.
Exactly. He set the tone perfectly.
Yeah.
And then he brought Dylan up to the podium.
I bet Dylan was sweating bullets.
Oh, yeah. He looked terrified at first. He was stumbling over his words. But then he said, I want to apologize. What I did was wrong. I judged someone without knowing them, and I'm sorry.
It takes a lot of courage to admit you were wrong, especially in front of the whole world. It makes you wonder, do you think his apology was genuine?
It's hard to say for sure. But Jason was standing off to the side, listening to it all. He seemed to appreciate the effort, at least. Forgiveness is a process. It doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. It takes time and reflection. And sometimes it's just not possible. But it's important to remember that everyone deserves a chance to redeem themselves.
And then Elon turned to Jason and asked if he wanted to say anything. Jason hesitated for a moment. You could tell he was nervous. But then he stepped up to the microphone.
That must have taken a lot of guts. After everything he'd been through, to stand up there in front of all those cameras and share his story, it's inspiring.
It was. He started by saying, I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to buy a soda. And that really resonated with people. It reminded everyone that he's just an ordinary guy who got caught in this crazy situation.
Sometimes the simplest statements are the most powerful. It cut through all the noise and brought it back to a basic human level.
Exactly. And then he said something that really stuck with me. He said, but what happened showed me how divided we've become. I don't want hate. I just want respect for everyone.
It was a powerful message of unity and compassion. It transcended the political divide that had fueled the initial conflict.
It did. And the crowd was silent. You could feel the shift in the energy. And for the first time in days, Jason looked at peace. He had spoken his truth, and you could tell it was a huge weight off his shoulders.
I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this whole story. The power of speaking your truth, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. Because it can be incredibly healing, not just for yourself, but for others too.
And you know what? After that press conference, things started to change. The media frenzy died down. People stopped seeing Jason as a symbol and started seeing him as a human being.
The power of storytelling, it can really change hearts and minds, and it can help us see the world through someone else's eyes.
Jason went back to work. His coworkers were incredibly supportive. His kids were so proud of him. And Dylan, well, he faced the consequences of his actions. He was suspended from work. He got a lot of hate online. But he also got some messages of support, people who believed he deserved a second chance.
Everyone makes mistakes. It's what we do after those mistakes that really matters.
And, Dylan actually wrote Jason a letter, a handwritten letter apologizing again for what he'd done. It seemed like he was really trying to make things right.
It's a good reminder that even in the most difficult situations, there's always hope for reconciliation.
And Elon Musk, he didn't just walk away from the situation either. He set up a fund to promote kindness and respect. He called it the Jason Initiative.
Wow. That's amazing. It's a testament to the fact that even small acts of kindness can have a huge impact.
And the Jason Initiative took off. It got donations from all over the world. People were so inspired by Jason's story, they wanted to be part of something positive.
It shows that people are hungry for kindness and connection. They want to believe that things can get better.
They can. And Jason himself started speaking at community events, sharing his story, encouraging people to choose kindness over hate.
He turned his pain into purpose. That's powerful stuff.
It is. And you know what? He even invited Dylan to one of his talks. They stood on stage together, shook hands. It was a symbol of forgiveness and reconciliation.
That's a beautiful image. It shows that healing is possible, even after something so painful and divisive.
Jason told the audience, everyone deserves a second chance. And I think that's a message we can all take to heart.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we all make mistakes. We all have the potential to hurt others, but we also have the capacity for growth, for change, for forgiveness.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Jason's story, what are some of the key things you think our listeners should remember?
I think it's important to remember that our actions have consequences both online and offline. We need to be mindful of the words we use, the stories we share, and the impact we have on others.
We need to choose kindness. We need to listen to each other. And we need to remember that we're all in this together.
Well said. That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride.
It has. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep those conversations going.